You're waiting.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to podcast number 122 podcasts so far. You notice there's only one person here. Yep, it's just me. I'm doing this podcast solo tonight because, well, I screwed up. Basically, when we're recording this on Thursday evening. You're probably going to see this or listen to it. We suggest you watch, not listen. When we recorded this on Thursday evening, we had about an hour while Katie was between shows, Katie Zuniga. We were almost done. We got to the last two graphics, and I thought, I don't think I hit the record button. Big screw up, amateur hour. You'd think after 31 years in television, maybe I could have remembered to hit the record button, but at least I didn't hit it twice, right? So that's good news. Anyway, so it's just me. First time we'll do a solo podcast here. So what we like to do in these, we like to kind of go through everything that's happened recently. What do we see ahead? And so when I say we, it's me and you only. So let's just do it. So let's go over November and December. I think the big message was in November, forgettable. Okay, not much happened in November. We're going to cover what's ahead between now and Christmas. So I'm recording this on the 11th. You're probably going to listen or watch this podcast, listen to or watch this podcast on the 12th or 13th. So we're within 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks till Christmas. Quake and tsunami warning. That was interesting. One of our first tsunami warnings we've had in quite a while on the coastline last week. So we'll recap that and one minor issue there. Windstorm anniversary. Remember the time when you got out of school in the mid 90s, got out of school for wind because we were expecting wind. That had not happened in the past, and it has not happened since that time, and it's been 29 years. So that's unusual. And then viewer photos, got a few at the end, including a cute baby picture. Let's just jump right into it here. Like I said, November, not much of anything interesting happened in November. The red days there, we always show you that. Those are days that were warmer than normal. Blue days, a little cooler than normal. We ended up slightly above normal for temperatures. As for rain, a little bit above normal, but only by just under an inch. So a little warmer than normal, a little wetter than average, but not like crazy wet. So again, when we look back, I don't think there's much to get excited about when we think about November 2024. Now, December so far, I don't have today's numbers in there, the 12th. I think we had about 0.2 of an inch of rain. So we're approaching an inch. Typically, we get 5 3/4 inches. We could easily make that up. We often do, later in the month. That said, I don't see a ton of rain coming up, but probably an inch within the next week. And here's a graphic. I don't use this on air very often because we try to make the big thing for pretty obvious reasons. We try to make graphics very clear and easy to understand, like somebody that isn't necessarily interested in weather, that it'll make sense for them, not like viewers and the listeners like you that there's a decent chance you're a weather geek, just a chance. But this shows you the high and low temperature each day out of PDX. Each bar is a day, so we go back, right side is current, and then all the way back a month. And you see the average high temp goes downhill as we go from early to mid-November to early December, and the average low temperature goes downhill. That's the blue line. And that way you can see with a graphic like this, you can see where we are within the average high and low. And notice not anything that interesting really in November. There was that warm period. I think that might have been, is that during that bomb cyclone week where we had those systems offshore? I forget, but that may have been the warm nights with southerly wind there, just a guess. And then I think we all remember last week where it was chilly weather, sunshine. Everybody was all smiles. All the news anchors were happy about that weather last week. I liked it too because temperatures were about average for highs, maybe slightly below, but then the overnight lows were nice and cold. Notice we did hit 27 at PDX, which was the coldest so far this season. We've all had a frost now or freezing conditions, and now we're back to pretty normal temps. Okay, looking ahead to December. Snow. When I was a kid growing up here, and you maybe have been the same way, each year as you approach Christmas, it's like maybe this is the year, folks. You know what? We suffered through all those foggy Christmases or rainy 50-degree Christmases. This could be the year. It's going to be glorious, like December of '78, or like November of '85, or like December of 1990, or like December of '08. Could this be the year? Unlikely that's the case this year, but in an average December, we get 1.5 inches of snow, which means some years we get it, some years we don't. Measurable snow, 5 out of the last 10 Decembers. But if you want real snow, like sleddable snow, we've only had 3 inches out of PDX in the last 50 years. So all the way back to basically my lifetime or so. Back into the 70s, only 3 times have we had more than 3 inches in the month of December. 2 of those times, well, one of those times I should say was in 2021. We had 3.9 inches that year. That's when we had some snow. I think most of that was after Christmas. That was where we had the winter storm warning up for Christmas Day, and nothing happened in Portland, but then it was snowy in the valley. And then we had a little bit more in the days following Christmas, if I recall correctly. And 2 years ago, we had that ice storm, which included a little bit of snow, just leading up to Christmas. I remember Nora Hart, co-anchor here at Fox 12. She was stuck at the airport for 2 days trying to get out of here to a warmer place. And then 2016, the 2.5 inches, that was the date I won't forget. 12, 14, and 16, December 14th, 2016. That was one of the traffic apocalypses there, where we expected the snow to begin in the early afternoon. It did, except a lot of people either waited too long or everybody tried to leave at once. Didn't do anything wrong, but that jammed up the freeways. We can't all get on the freeway at once. We discovered that. But 2017 is where we had an inch on Christmas Eve. That was pretty neat. And then just turned to ice during the night. And then we had almost as much. Well, we didn't have an inch of freezing rain, but we had plenty of freezing rain on top of that. Okay, so what's ahead? What do we see between now and Christmas? Big message. I come in, I look at the weather maps. Or I think you know me well enough. Actually, I got up this morning, had my coffee, looked at the weather maps to see if there's anything new. Nah, there was nothing new. It looks really boring coming up here for the next week and a half or 2 weeks. Here's a satellite picture. We try to have a moving satellite picture just for fun. And you can see there's 2 areas of surface low pressure. One is down here, moving into California. Today we had just a gray day here west of the Cascades. Light rain, like I said, 0.2 of an inch. But that did throw up moisture into eastern and central Oregon. So they had, a lot of you had your first snowfall of the season over there this Thursday, the 12th. As we had a cool northerly and northeasterly flow at the surface moving towards that low. So that's 1 week low. It's dying. We're in between for tonight. And then for Friday, here comes another surface low developing right in here. And that is headed towards Vancouver Island. So it's like, one is going to our south. Next one goes to the north. Neither one hits us straight on. And the reason we're not getting really stormy weather with this rain here the last few days and what's coming up, because we've got a lot of splitting going on. Here's the view at about 500 millibars. You see the splitting flow here. There's an upper level trough kind of breaking off from the main flow, which is up here in Canada. And when that happens, systems tend to be weak. Here's a good one. This one's a little bit harder to follow. Watch right near the beginning. When it first starts moving, this is the surface flow right here. It falls apart, but then this next low comes up towards BC, runs into Vancouver Island. Looks like it bottoms out around 978 millibars. Not a bomb cyclone, but a pretty rapidly deepening low. Should look great on the satellite imagery tomorrow and early Saturday. But that's going to the north. And in fact, as I recall, if you watch that to the north, no, I'm wrong. Wrong one. Maybe it's the one coming on Monday. There's a little bit of splitting going on with the one on Monday as well. So we're getting one deep low well to our north, but any sort of what we call gradient packing, which is or isobar packing, where we see the isobars pretty close together, where there's a rapid fall off in pressure to give us wind. We don't see that near us. If you just sit there and stare just at us only, you just don't see any real strong wind with that. It will be windy on the coast on Friday, probably when you're watching this or listening to it. But yeah, we just don't have any really big, strong storms against the coastline. Now, big picture, let's go through 2 weeks. This is the GFS. This is just the operational model from midday on Thursday. They've been looking the same for day after day, though all models pretty much the same. I got about 4 things to focus on. One is this Hudson's Bay low here, most of the time centered in eastern Canada. Watch the whole period here, the whole 2 weeks. It just kind of sits there. All right, so that's one. Then look over the Aleutians, over the eastern Pacific. Most of the time, there's a low sitting right here. All right. So what's going to be in between? If you have 2 upper level lows, one to our west, one well to our east, what's going to happen over the western USA most of the time? Most of the time, there's some sort of ridging going on along the west coast here. Seems to be strongest heading towards Christmas. That's pretty far out there, though, so we don't know. But that'd be item number 3, right? We had low, low, and then the upper high. Oh, yeah. The last item to note, yes, there seems to want to be ridging all along the west coast, higher than normal heights, most of the time for the next 2 weeks. But there's little waves of energy, little short waves that are going over this ridge or through the ridge, like there. So it's not like a big blocking high. For now, at least, it doesn't look like it's going to be a big blocking high that just shuts off all the cloud cover and all the moisture, and we're totally dry for like 10 days. Seems unlikely. I think we're going to get little weak disturbances moving through the ridge. In fact, here's Christmas Day. This is the GFS ensemble average, all the 30 different ensemble members from the GFS. And this is, I know it's almost 2 weeks out. It's, 13 days out. But it shows the higher than normal heights over the West Coast, lower than normal heights out over the Pacific. And this would say very mild across the entire Western USA. Christmas Day. Wait, that was the GFS ensemble average. Here's the European ensembles. Same day, almost the same time, 6 hours off. Same pattern. You see the deep low well offshore, the Aleutian low. Well, I guess in upper level terms, it's not the Aleutian low. But the point is, we've got upper level ridging along the West Coast. All models seem to agree on this. So again, in general, the next 10 days, maybe 2 weeks look pretty boring. But I mentioned that little systems seem to want to come through the ridging, right? So this is the European ensemble again, but this is 24-hour precipitation. Every single horizontal line is one of the 51 ensemble members. You've got the control run, which is the first one here at the bottom, all the way up through number 50. And you notice two things. One is it does seem like there is more of a gap in the rainfall, precipitation, or it'll be rain because it's warm. But, from about the middle of next week, maybe to the following weekend. But even there, you see some ensemble members that have some rain. Then beyond that, you do see more ensemble members with some rain, some of them heavy, but some not. But the point is, this is when we have that ridge that's not totally blocking off the precipitation, blocking off all the rain. We sometimes call that, ready for it, dirty ridging. Sounds nasty, don't go there. Dirty ridging just means that it's kind of dirty. It's not a clean ridge where everything's going around and we're totally blocking out the rain. So just remember, that's your term for the day, folks, is dirty ridging. And it appears that's the case coming up for maybe the next 2 weeks. So here's another way to show that. Same European ensemble members. The next 15 days, current time is here on the left. 2 weeks from now, the 27th is on the right. So this is most of the rest of December here. 850 millibar temp in Celsius, so 0. If it's around 0, this 850 millibars is up around 4 to 5,000 feet. So 0 means it's around freezing. So this is pretty much past elevation here, right in here, for temperature at freezing. So anytime the actual 850 millibar temp is down below, it's like, okay, yeah, it could snow at the passes if there's moisture. So it's kind of near the passes really through Tuesday. And then it warms up. And most of the time after that, through the 27th, those temperatures are keeping the snow level up above the passes. So the green line is the average of all 51 ensemble members, and the blue line is that control run. So the blue line is always going to have far more variation because that's actually just one run of the European model. So that's what you see there. Oh, one other thing to point out, if you're looking for cold air here in the lowlands, this is a striking example of why we would not expect extreme cold in the lowlands, no Arctic air coming south. You want to get it below -7, -8 for like cold Canadian air surging southward. There's not a single ensemble member, not only forget the average, it's way up there. There's not a single ensemble member that goes below -5. This would imply there's almost no chance of any low elevation snow through the 27th. A long ways out, I know. And in fact, here's the GFS ensembles 24-hour snow graphic. It's highly unusual to not in the middle of winter here, approaching, our coldest time of the year, which is at the end of that graphic. Highly unusual to not see any chances for snow except that one perturbation number 3 on the, this is next Monday. I don't know why it's doing that. Don't worry about it. The point is, Christmas Day is there. It's extremely unlikely we have any sort of cold pattern heading to Christmas. Luckily, we got all that snow in the Cascades back in November. We've had a little bit this month, and we have some more coming up. Actually, let me jump ahead. Here's our forecast. And the snow level does lower a bit the next few days. Saturday, Sunday, probably the snowiest travel over the Cascades, at least in terms of cold and keeping the snow frozen on the highways. And we get a decent amount of snow there, 12 to 24 inches, so 1 to 2 feet in the next 7 days. Is that going to be enough to open up ski bowl? I don't know. I don't know how much more they need. Hopefully it is, because then that may be it as we head into the beginning of Christmas break. All right, so the snowpack, like I said, it seems to be doing okay. We're running about average on Mount Hood. Most of the rest of Oregon is well above average. It's early. See the date. It's December 11th, so kind of take that with a grain of salt, as we say, because they're usually on average isn't that much on the ground this time of the year anyway. Okay, we had an earthquake off the coastline that was whatever day. Was it last Thursday? I think it was. Yeah, the 5th. Great graphic here. This is a subduction zone, Cascadia subduction zone. This is from iris.edu. where we have the Juan de Fuca plate here that is pushing under the plate that we all live on, the North American plate. That's where the big quake will come from someday. This quake, this 7.0 magnitude quake last Thursday morning, happened right here where the Gorda plate here intersects with the Pacific plate that's moving like this. Gorda plate's moving there. North American plate's just kind of sitting there, as I believe. No, actually, I think there's a slight movement like this. The point is, it was kind of near that junction point, and I believe that's called the Mendocino triple point, I think. But one of the reasons we can have large earthquakes out here and not get tsunami, like we didn't this time, is because if this plate is moving this way from west to east, the Gorda plate is, and the Pacific plate is moving east to west, they're sliding past each other, strike slip, instead of, one isn't popping another one up. You generally don't get a movement up and down. You can, apparently, if land were to slide under the water, that could generate a tsunami. So that's where that quake was. And in fact, you can see, I kind of did a drawing. I used a different tool, and I kind of took this area here across along the southern Oregon coast down onto the northern California coast. And I checked anything above a 6.5 since the year 2000, so in the last 24 years. And you can see there's only been one other 7.0 in that area, and it's been almost 20 years. That was a 7.2. And you know what happened that day? It was June 14th of 2005 at 7:50 p.m. There was a tsunami warning on the coastline because of such a large earthquake. And I remember that was, June. A lot of people were out there on vacation. So that was a big deal. I believe, don't hold me to it. Nobody else is in here to hear this, but I think that's the only the first tsunami warning that we just had last week. The first one since that 2005 event that was generated from a local quake. I know we've had the Japanese tsunami that gave us a tsunami warning. Japanese quake that gave us a tsunami warning for the next morning. I'm aware of that around 2012, 2010. So, so these are pretty rare. And since they're pretty rare, sometimes the message can be a little bit confusing. I only pointed this out. This was better the first time we did this because Katie gave me some good feedback. But on this podcast 122 version 2 here, it's going to be a little bit different. But so on that day, there was right after the earthquake happened, the National Tsunami Warning Center. There are two. There's one up there in Alaska, National Tsunami Warning Center. Then there's a Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Hawaii. There are two. Confusion right there. But they put out, up in Alaska, they put out the warning for us very quickly after that quake. This would be Z time. So this would be 10:49 a.m., 10:50, let's just round up. 10:50 a.m., they put out a tsunami warning. And then Guam puts out some warnings. There's one from Hawaii. And then half an hour later, Tsunami Warning Center puts out another one saying, hey, tsunami warning is still in effect at 11:25. Okay. But then 4 minutes later, I see this message come across. And notice the yellow part at the bottom. Based on all available data, the tsunami threat from this earthquake is now past. And for some reason, I saw that and I thought, oh, good. Okay, it's over. I guess we're going to be okay. At the same time, there was an expert on NBC saying, from the Tsunami Warning Center in Alaska, saying we're not seeing a tsunami from this. All right. And in fact, if you go, notice this was from Honolulu. So this was not from the National Tsunami Warning Center. This message only applied to non-US West Coast areas. That was my mess up there. But biggie is that text down there needs to say this only tsunami threat for this earthquake is now past everywhere except along the West Coast, or should just say this only applies to Hawaii and other spots. Let me back up here. Okay, so I read that message, and probably about 11:35, 11:40, I saw it. Then I tweeted that, and then somebody said, wait a minute, 2 or 3 minutes later, wait a minute, no, it's still in effect. And I realized that, but within 5 minutes then, they did cancel the West Coast threat. So I think the biggie is they need to, apparently they're working maybe on getting on one tsunami center instead of two. That's all part of the issue. But also making it very clear in the messages, this only applies for a specific area. All right. So there we go. All right. This one. How many of you remember the windstorm on December 12th, 1995? We had a 953 millibar low come up the coastline. School got out early. Only time in my career the whole time I've actually, my entire life here, I don't remember school getting out for a windstorm. So that's at least 40, 50 years back in time. And it hasn't happened since. So as I recall, schools were letting kids out like at midday because we were expecting the wind to arrive at midday. I think that's right when it arrived. And lots of you have stories from that day. This was the last region-wide major windstorm. Yes, we've had stronger winds on the coast, like in 2007 in spots. And here in the valley, in spots like Eugene in 2002, the South Valley Surprise, you had stronger wind. This is the one time where the wind went from California all the way up onto the Washington coastline. And here are the big three tracks. We showed you this back in October when we talked about the Columbus Day storm. But yeah, October 12th, see how closely that low just was zoomed very quickly right up the coastline. 1981, zoomed pretty quickly, but it was a little farther offshore. And in 1995, it came at a little more of an angle. That's what I remember seeing on the satellite imagery. It came, a little more southwest to northeast. In fact, it moved onshore on the Olympic Peninsula. As I recall, Forks didn't have high winds because it was north of the low center. But look at those gusts on the beaches. 95, 105, 101 at Astoria, 112 at Cannon Beach, 119 at Sea Line Caves. Tremendous amount of damage on the coast from this storm. Here in the valleys, Eugene wasn't hit very hard, but farther north, that's where the damage occurred. Interesting little fact about the airport. So that 74 mile per hour gust, that was on the old equipment. As I recall, within the year beforehand, they had upgraded to the newer ASOS equipment, which had a 5-minute gust. The wind for a gust to register at a certain speed, it has to be at that speed for, did I say 5-second gust? So 5-second gust. So if it pegs up to 70 miles per hour, it's got to sit there at 70 for 5 seconds. I think I have that right. On that old equipment, which was just an instantaneous gust or a 1-minute gust, it was 74. And nowadays they have, they have lowered it to a 3-second gust because they realized I think 5 seconds wasn't like it was giving too low of gust values. Lots of Douglas fir trees and other trees crashing into people's homes. A lot of damage across the region. Toledo up there had a gust of 67 as well. You can find out all about this storm and many others. Storm King, great website. Just look up Storm King. Wolf Reed, Dr. Wolf Reed up in BC. I think he maybe works for BC Hydro, I think. But look at all these different storms from the 1880s all the way to present day. That's a great page. Okay, fog in the wetlands. We got 3 photos for you. And then one more. This is from Jerry Carlson. We've been seeing a lot of this. Fog season here is October through February. By the time we get to March, we're not seeing much fog because the sun comes up and it evaporates pretty quickly, and our nights get much shorter. But thank you, Jared Carlson, for this pick. By the way, if you ever want to submit a picture or a pet photo, either do it through our app, or if you say, I don't want another app on my phone, we'd love to have our app on your phone. But if not, go to the weather page, kind of across the top there, you'll see submit your photos and videos, and you can choose pets or news weather. So that was fog in the wetlands. Mount Hood Crater. Ooh, this is a neat one from Gary Peterson because you see, I think you see some climbers. Okay, there's some there on the Hog's Back, which is kind of that ridge in the middle. Do you see anybody high up? I'm looking. I don't see anybody farther up. You do see Devil's Kitchen. See, it's steaming there. It's not covered in snow. The hot rocks there. That mountain is still alive down there somewhere. Thank you, Gary Peterson. And then Brenda Green. Great, kind of a low-angled, the sun was pretty high in the sky to get this very flat-looking rainbow in Oregon City. This was just a few days ago on December 8th. And final pick, oh, look at this. Baby Enzo. I just checked in with Camilla. Camilla's doing great. She's on family leave. So she's going to be back in a few weeks. We're getting close now. She's been gone quite a few weeks. And baby is 3 months old. Okay, I guess that means she's been gone 3 months. And doggy there as well. Love that the baby is in the little Christmas sweater. But Camilla said she's doing great. Amazing how interactive little boy Enzo is. Smiles, laughs, probably makes little cooing noises. Fun stuff. Learning. Look, he's learning about the shapes, looking up at those shapes right now. So again, cute baby. Camilla's going to be back in about 3 weeks or so, 3 or 4 weeks. So that should be great. All right. So that was a little bit different to not have anybody to talk with except you. Hopefully you enjoyed something here. I think the big message here is that we just do not have any significant weather coming up in the next 10 days, and it's possible it stays dead through Christmas. We will see. That said, remember last year, it was mild and wet all through December, and then bang, those first few days after the new year, we could see on our maps, something's coming in by mid-January. We had one of the worst weeks we've had in many, many years. All right, so thanks for joining me for the podcast episode, First Alert Weather Podcast episode 122. We might try to do a podcast next week, maybe a Christmas version. We'll see. Maybe Christmas fix. If not, we will be back, I know, the day after New Year's. But we'll try to do one next week. It's just the timing has to work out just right. Since we're short people, it's kind of tough to get us together at the same time. But hopefully you have a great weekend and a safe beginning of the holiday season. See you later.
Don't stop. You're waiting and hesitating, and tell us, please tell us.